Hey everyone, Temporal here, and for this session we are reviewing a bronze Lucio player. If you guys are enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe, as that really helps me out quite a bit, and I do appreciate it. Or if you are looking to get coaching yourself, you can join my Discord in the description below, see what rates look like, see what sort of promos, events we have going on, all that good stuff. So let's see how this works with our Lucio here in bronze. We're speed amping right outside the gate, and I don't particularly like that. This speed amp is good on King of the Hill when you guys are racing to take position against each other, because team 1 starts over here, team 2 starts over here, the point is somewhere in the center here, and whoever can sort of get there fastest gets an advantage because they get positional advantage. Like if team 2 gets here faster, then they might have additional chokes that team 1 has to push through. So the speed amp definitely matters when you're pushing out of Koth where it's even for that first fight right when it unlocks. Using your speed amp to push out here doesn't actually help that much because, hey, you got out here like 2 seconds faster, but now you're going to see that your amp is on cooldown for 12 seconds, and there's a very real possibility that your team pushes up here in the next 7 or 8 seconds and is ready to brawl, is ready to fight. And you don't want that. You actually used your amp when your team was in almost no danger, when the trains were between you and the opponent. You want your amp available to pull your team out. You want your amp available for your team to chase the other team when they're already on top of them. Or maybe you want your amp available for when your team is rotating through dangerous space getting pummeled by poke, so that happens for a smaller amount of time. You don't want to be amping when your team was totally safe, not getting shot at, if there's a belief that you might need to use your amp again in the next 12 seconds, which there definitely is. You might need your amp to help stabilize the team with heals. You might need your amp so that your team can pursue this team. You might want your amp to help your team close the distance here. You might want your amp to go for a solo dive on this. Like, you could definitely need your amp in the next 12 seconds, and you didn't get much out of this amp. Hey, Manny. Good to see you. Okay, so there's a tracer. There's a blue tracer, and I hear the blue tracer. And your support partner is Mercy, which is not a great support combination and not a normal support combination. But I want you in general to be aware of that tracer sound that's coming probably from your left here. Where's this tracer? I'll just cheat. Oh, coming from your right. My mistake. It was behind you. I just couldn't tell if it was left or right. I expected him to be in here. There's this tracer back here. Usually it's going to be your job to peel tracer off of your other support. Because it's Mercy, she's kind of okay on her own. She does a better job of staying away, being slippery, etc. because you guys are running double mains at board. But usually if you hear a flanker in your backline, or if you see a flanker going for your backline, you want to go turn around and deal with that flanker. You have boops to get them out. You have speed to help pull your support away. You have heals to help heal your support up. You have your weapon, you're slippery yourself and hard for the tracer to duel. Like, that's usually what you would want to do. So when you hear those tracer weapons, please be ready to turn around and look for them to see if they're in your backline, because that is your job when you're running with Zens, when you're running with Annas, when you're running with Moiras even. And I guess that's really who you run with these days. Yeah. Yeah, so that's like the third clip, fourth clip that tracer is fired. I want you dealing with that. Much more so than I want you spamming your damage forward. Even if it's hard to hit the tracer, even if you don't hit very many shots, just a couple shots on him will help encourage him to leave, which will make it much easier for your support partner. If this wasn't a Mercy, she'd be in a lot of trouble right now.
Healing boost.
Okay. This is unfortunate, so you're going to swap to speed, right? No. So as soon as you turned purple, your healing boost isn't doing anything anymore. When Anna hits you with a nade, then people's health bars turn purple like that. That means they can't receive healing. So your amp gives you 3 seconds of increased ability from your crossfade, either heals or speed. And if 3 of you just turned purple, or 2 of you turned purple here, your soldier that you were originally probably using this for is already healed to full. As soon as you guys turned purple, this isn't really helping anymore. So you want to swap to speed, because at least it's something. Extra movement speed for 2 seconds is better than heals that don't work. I don't like this pathing. You needed to stay over here. You were in danger. You can't heal yourself. You needed to stay over here where you could wall ride, where you could play around the health pack, where you could then later, once you're able to heal yourself, skate back on the walls to get out. You're just sort of walking through open to get back, and Lucio doesn't like skating through open. Lucio likes the walls, and he likes to go through open spaces on those walls when he has more health. And preferably with speed, not heals up. Yeah. But yes, this is more wall play than you usually see out of a bronze Lucio, so that is good. Swap to heals. You're between fights. You want to be on heals between fights a lot of the time to try to catch up on your ults, because you don't get ult charge from speed. Good. Wow. Almost. This is speed. I like this. You pop heals while your Reinhardt is on the ground. This is good. This is good. Heals while Reinhardt's on the ground because he can't move. This is a touch early to swap back to speed, but the idea of I'm going to amp speed to help my Reinhardt get out, this is good. This is good. Amped speed to help your Reinhardt retreat from the fight. Yeah, that's what we're looking for. And you could add your own boop, because this Reinhardt's likely to swing at your Reinhardt because he's just too juicy. He's low health. I don't like that you swapped to heals here, which makes me think maybe the speed wasn't intentional. But the speed, if it was intentional, was good, and I would like you to boop away this Reinhardt, who predictably is going for this swing and not shielding. Boop. Right click. Right click. Right click. Right click. Okay. Let him get off that first swing, but then did get it off. And again, I'd have liked you to be on speed for most of this. Unfortunate. That's just wall ride mechanic issues on your part. You definitely get out of here, and you definitely get out of here on speed, especially. I saw. Well, okay then. I'm not used to seeing a Lucio dive at opposing support like that and get value in bronze, but I like it. So, that was good dive earlier. Now you're popping your amp, and I don't love this because you're popping your amp to make your team go faster. Even if you can get through here, your other people that are with you that could take advantage of this amp, that remember is a 12-second cooldown and effectively 15 seconds from when you use it because it lasts for 3. So are you going to want amp in the next 15 seconds? I think you might, and your Genji and your Reinhardt really can't take advantage of this amp yet. So this is early. You're through. Genji would have been about a moment behind you, and, well, if you were using this amp, it was because you wanted to push forward, right? So, like, you needed to go, I'm going to wall right up here, over to here, and I'm going to boop this right in, and my team is going to fight it. We have this speed because we want to go in and fight it. Your amp speeds are a little bit careless at this point. Yeah, so your boop worked on the Rhine earlier because the Rhine wanted to swing because your Rhine was making good bait. Here, there wasn't a great reason. Yes, you were there, but there wasn't a great reason for this Reinhardt to swing, so it's unsurprising that your boop didn't work, because his shield does block your boop. Okay. Do it again. Do it again. He'd have had that. He'd have had that without Ryan's help. That was a little too slow. So there's not quite enough respect being paid here. This is fine, and you're on the wall, so if he flashes you, you're going to fall, and it's going to be hard for him to hit the shot on you, the headshot on you after the flash, while you're doing the falling off the wall thing. So this is good. This is the right way to engage him, and you open with a left-click thing, and then you follow it up into a right-click. I don't like that you're on the ground here, because you didn't ride high enough up on the wall. And I also don't like how long you're taking before you're booping him. This is too long. He could have already flashed you, and he could hit you with the headshot, because there's nothing particularly hard. Yes, you jumped, but there's nothing particularly hard about hitting the flash against you right now. So we don't want this. We are not respecting it enough his ability to turn and flash headshot us. Okay, it's bronze. He probably can't turn and flash headshot us, but he could turn and flash fan us, and that still would be uncomfortable. Yeah, this boop was too slow. You waited until he was like almost completely aimed at you before you hit this boop.
My ultimate is ready. You hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hey. Let's break it. Damn!
Please don't. Please don't. Oh, bronze. Oh, bronze. Just because one of your teammates presses Q, I promise that you don't have to press Q. In fact, you pressing Q is generally tied more to your opponents pressing Q when you're playing Lucio. That said, when your opponents press Q, amping speed is a very good thing to do. Because if one of your teammates are pressing Q, it likely means the fight has started, or the fight is starting now because of the ult, and you want your whole team to push aggressively and get value when any one of your teammates is doing an ult. For example, if Genji goes in and blades, that's great. Even if you don't think Genji needs your speed, the team wants your amp speed so that they can all push in and follow up while the opposing team is turned and looking and trying to peel the Genji. They can run in fast and get a lot of work done while the Genji is blading. So you'd want to amp during that. Similar thing with the visor. You can either help the soldier take position faster or get your team in there faster. Oh, you hit a grab or a shatter? Your team wants to run in faster to be able to follow up on it. So popping amp speed when your team hits an ult, as a rule of thumb, can work pretty darn well. Popping your Q when someone else pops their Q on your team, generally not so good. Lucio generally is going to pop his Q either to defend against an opponent's Q, or he's going to pop it in more of a staggered way. Rather than layering or stacking ults, like, hey, we're going to beat and visor at the same time type stuff, he's more a fan of, hey, we fight, we use our ults, etc. Maybe we use a grab, maybe we use a visor, maybe we use a blade, maybe we do whatever, and then we haven't won yet, the fight's still tight, let me now that we've spent a lot of health and spent our ult or done whatever, and we haven't won the fight, let me now pop my beat to extend the fight and let us fight at full health, even though we've lost 30, 40, 50% of our resources, but haven't lost any people yet. He likes to not layer, but instead extend the duration that his team is ulting during. Yeah, it's bronze. It's bronze having a plat moment. That's a good description. Okay, why aren't we on speed? That Reinhardt is scary to all of us. He is still nanoed. Yes, we have beat, but he is still nanoed. Your team does not need heals. They have a bunch of temporary HP from your sound barrier right now. They want speed so that they can kite this Reinhardt or chase this Reinhardt. Reinhardt has range limitation issues, and you exaggerate those by giving your team speed when he doesn't have it. Deny the res. Deny the res. Better. Yeah, you've got some good aim for a bronze, Lucio. At least in your duels. I'm going to call that a duel even though it was a, 2v1. I could make arguments about how this is really just a giant stagger fest and he's not enabling his team properly, but I'm not going to. I'm liking it. Leave. Yeah, again, that poop into the Rhine shield. Yeah. Again, I don't want you landing back in the middle of the lane here. I do want you staying on the wall. Stay on the wall over here. Stay on the wall over here. That's more how we're thinking. And honestly, even though I'm having fun with what you're doing here, you do want to be thinking about, hey, am I offering my aura to my team? Am I making sure that we can get 6-man, 5-man fights, etc., by controlling my team's respawn speed with taxis, etc.? Those are all things that we want to be thinking about. Okay. It's about right, Blah. Daycare analogy. Okay, so you hear the tracer, and again, that's your job. You're less interested in putting your spam forward, and more interested in putting your damage into the tracer on your flank to make her leave. In general, in Overwatch, if you make people on flanks or on off angles leave, you're going to have a good time. If you make them rejoin their team, if you make them give up their aggressive positioning, you're going to have a good time. And you're someone who can offer your aura to your team in front and behind you while peeling someone off the flank, while battling them a little bit and going, nope, I'm here. I put some shots at you. Oh, you put some shots at me. I wrap around this to heal for a second. I come back in. I put some more shots into you. Oh, I go around to heal for a second again, turn it around, and then I go in with speed and finish you. Or, go hard enough to make you recall out, whatever.
Ooh, you hear that?
Okay, so you're done. You're down 2. Just go speed and leave. Pull your team out. Go speed and leave. Speed and leave. You do not want to frontline by yourself. Speed and get out of here. Speed and leave. Good, boop. So again, both you and Mercy are purple right now, so you need to swap to speed because your heals literally can't heal you. You literally can't heal yourself or Mercy with your heal aura right now, so swap to speed.
Let's up the tempo.
Please stop jumping in the middle of the open. Going over here was fine, or getting over here more quickly so that you could go taxi people back. It's called Lucio taxiing. When you go back to spawn and get everyone that's rezzing or just res and give them your speed to bring them back to the fight faster. And that's something that you want to do between real team fights to try to get more real team fights. You can't always do it because sometimes the game will just be a mess, kind of like it's been on second point here, where it's just a long, exaggerated forever fight, and whatever you do, your team isn't really going to change their mind. They're going to take that. But that is something you want to look to do. You want to look to enable your team to get more real team fights when you're playing Lucio.
My ultimate is ready. My ultimate is almost ready.
You can do a little more than that, Miss Evil Doom. As Lucio, you get a little bit more control because even if they go to the spawn room at different times, you can go, hey, you don't offer speed to the first spawners, you just sit on heal aura, and you do offer speed to the later spawners. And they might not end up there at the exact same time, but they'll end up there closer to at the same time. So you have a better chance. You get to manipulate your team's respawn, not your respawn speed, but your team's return to the fight speed rate as Lucio more so than anyone else.
Oh, let's break it. Damn!
Sure.
Oh, hey. Push on. That's the delivery on the way.
So, the thing that we run into with that beat Yeah. The thing we run
Oh, let's
into
break
here
it.
is
Damn!
we've already lost our soldier, so it's not saving him. So who is this really saving? Is anyone in danger? Is anyone really getting saved by this beat? We want to hit our beats when it's going to save someone's life, when it's going to protect us from ults that are coming out, or when we're aggressing hard, which is again sort of it saving someone's life. The opponents don't really have to fight us during this beat, and I'm going to zoom out just so that you can see that. We hit this beat, and it's nice that this D.Va and McCree are fighting us, but they could just be kiting, and the McCree's going to kite a little bit now. You see how that works, and then our Ryan catches the D.Va with the pin, which is nice. But we don't really want to be popping beats when the opponents don't have to be fighting us. We want to pop beats when we're already in and brawling with them, or they're already in brawling with us. We don't want to go, hey, I beat because I think we should fight now. Like, no, they need to be in a place where your opponents can't just kite your beat.
Special delivery on the way.
My warriors
My ultimate's almost ready.
Ha. I'm under attack.
Mm-hmm. Keylor is fine right now. This is a poke phase.
enemy contact.
Routing tower to forward barrier.
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
Heal up. Hey, let's pick it up. Boom. I'm on the payload.
Why do I
and moving.
feel like we're missing some sound effects?
ده هيكون مؤلم.
It's
Let's move it, people.
I have spotted the enemy.
Time to raise my APM.
I am moving.
Yeah, why are we not getting our sound effects from... Huh. Okay. That's weird.
Right, gotcha.
Check yourself.
I'm going deep. Okay. So here we are. Let's go deep. Kree's not looking at you. Play the wall. Play the wall. I don't mind you here, but play the wall. You then hit the boop. You know he's weak. You manage to slip past this. You unfortunately don't have boop to interrupt him, but you decide that you're going to try to force this. I don't particularly like this because you got the heal, and now you're here, and you don't really have a wall to play off of. The closest thing you have is this pillar. You're in pretty deep into enemy space. You do have your soldier supporting you up here, which is great, and why I'm more okay with it than I would be otherwise, but you do want to make sure you get to this pillar where you have something to play with. You don't want to stay in open here. So if we take a look, you do go use that pillar a little bit. Good. And now you're sort of here, but you've won hard enough that we're going to be good with it. Good. This Lucio's mechanics are good for bronze, both from a aim and wall riding sense, but his crossfade usage is still struggling. That said, I suppose silver crossfade usage does struggle quite a bit too, but this crossfade usage is worse, I would say, still than the crossfade usage that we saw yesterday when we did a silver Lucio. That said, I agree, the aim and the wall riding is better than what I expected bronze.
Double time. I'm moving with the payload.
Did someone call for this?
Let's push the payload.
Again, this is mostly poke phase.
My ultimate is ready.
Yeah, so again, I'm calling this poke phase, and in most poke phase, you are going to want to be on heal right here. If you're using it yourself to dive, fine. If you're helping your team go in, fine. But
I am loving this.
mostly that's not what was going on here.
The white tiger becomes me.
Nothing's gonna stop me.
Okay. Okay.
enemy contact.
Nerf this.
Do I think booping the McCree back here when he did it was a mistake? I mean, if he was really good, he would have weaved in a melee before he went for the boop, and that would have actually finished off the McCree, but I can forgive him for that. And yes, it was a mistake given how low health the McCree got out with, but given how low health the McCree got out with, it's also very possible that the boop would have been the finish if he'd ended up taking any additional more damage. Plus, he had his soldier up here. No, I'm okay with the boop.
I see. Special delivery on the way.
Let's get you back out there.
Get into position.
It's mine now.
I don't love this. So your team desperately needs to reset right now. Yeah, desperately needs to reset. Please go back to your team spawn. Please leave the team fight. That's fine. Back to your team spawn. Don't stay up here and fight with Genji. If they're not going to leave, they're not going to leave. That's life. No, don't play in the middle of the lane.
My servants never die.
We did not want to push in there. At all. At all.
This will heal you.
Yeah, let's pick it up.
30 seconds remaining.
Oh, yeah.
Time is against us. Press on.
I'm under attack.
Unfortunate. You're here.
Ha.
Did you just yoink the bubble? You did. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Then Yuzari's using hers. And you're just not quite on top of it right now. I can live with that. Yeah. You could have tried to catch this wall, and you might have actually saved yourself from this, but you probably weren't going to be high enough off the ground to save it. And because you got shattered, you can't beat to save the team from shatter. If you don't get shattered there, you beat and save the team from it, and you win this pretty cleanly. Now it's going to be messy,
Oh, time to accelerate.
but I'm going to guess you finish based on the length of this recording. Okay.
Oh, let's break it.
Fine, everyone's critical. Now amp heals. Yeah, you don't usually amp heals during beat, but if everyone's critical when you hit it and everyone's already in like they were, you can do it to recover their real health while they have temporary health. Okay, you have good mechanics for bronze. You simply do for your Lucio, and that's great. It enables you to do some things that most bronze Lucios can't do, like going and diving backlines, like going and messing with hit scans, and sometimes finishing hit scans. That's great. Some things that you are going to want to work on so far that we're seeing is I do want you to have a little more awareness of the game state in terms of, wait, are we really in this fight, or am I like fighting this in this like 2v5, 2v4, 2v3 thing that we're never actually going to win and just stalling out time. That can be tricky on offense, and you can get lulled into taking a fight forever rather than doing a reset. That said, it's bronze. I know the resets are hard. You get a little more control over them as Lucio, though, than most players do. I also want you more aware of your crossfades. You do amps, and you potentially do amps like right out the gate that don't particularly help. You do amps that are heal amps when your team is purple.
I am ready to roll.
You are going to need to get a little bit better with your amp usage specifically. Your crossfades are fine. I'm not too worried about those right now, but specifically I want you to be more aware of your amps, what you're amping, when you need to be swapping it, etc. Your crossfades could definitely use work too, but hey.
This is gonna make you feel better.
And then let's see what else you can do. Oh, and we talked about your beats. I mean, your beats could definitely use some work, but that last beat was good.
Stop the payload.
Let you hear that.
respect here. Okay. Okay.
Push off.
That was never likely to work. You're really too low when you're popping this. Please swap to speed. Please swap to speed. Now you could be on heals. I don't really like you here. Please, more on the wall. More on the wall, please.
Time to accelerate.
He's gone. I don't really like pushing their backline here because it doesn't actually help your team. Your team is getting to deal with things in their own backline regardless right now, and while you have the ability to push the backline, and that's cool, it's not really helping you. You're sort of taking a 1v4 by yourself here that you really don't need to take because these guys aren't really going to be able to contribute to this fight very much regardless. They have to get up around this corner, and if you wanted to keep them out, you could do it more from here and less from here, which is more dangerous. I hope that makes sense. You could enforce this corner, shoot from here, have your boop, plus you've got your Winston bubble locking them out of the fight. Like, you don't necessarily want to do this up here.
This will heal you.
Right ahead. Use caution.
Speed boost. I am loving this. Audio check. Enemy turret ahead. Enemy turret destroyed.
This is what I'm talking about with your amps. Here you are. I see, yes, that McCree would like some healing. I see you're missing some health.
Enemy turret
You pick amp
destroyed.
here. I don't love it, but if you're going to immediately go to someone that you can then heal, sort of. Sort of.
Push off.
You're just in the middle of the lane.
Let's move it, people.
You've got the bubble, you're on cart stall, okay. It's fine, play the back of cart. Just play the back of cart to get your job done. No, 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 the cart, the cart, the cart! This was probably uncommunicated, but your job here was clearly to handle the cart. Your team is going to try to do what they can to win their way back into the fight. They're probably going to fail, but they're going to try. Your job definitely is to anchor cart, is to bounce back and forth between this billboard and gas station and do what you can to stall the cart. Because if you don't, they're going to cap. Whereas your team can't really get to the cart. There's a bunch of molten core between them and the cart, so they can't get to the cart, and they know that. They can potentially get the elimination on Torb. They can potentially work their way in on Reinhardt. They can potentially take high ground and then win the battle. You just need to buy them time. Is it going to be enough? Probably not, but it's your best chance. Instead, you do that for a little bit,
Step to this.
and then you go out after this Ana. You get bloodthirsty. You go for the bloodthirsty support. I'm gonna get the Ana, etc. But the problem is you were the only one that could stop the cart, and it is still an objective-based game here. So even if you get the Ana, if they get the cap, that's not a good trade because they get to stagger you. And what I mean by stagger you is you're gonna take a trip to spawn while the cart is still moving. Whereas they just lose time if they delay sending you to spawn when you're on the cart because the cart can't move, but their time ticks down. So if they're getting distance right now, which they are, and they're going to eliminate you later, you're not going to win the team fight. They're just getting distance, and then that's less team fights you'll get on the map because the cart's moving.
Stop the payload.
Let's get patched up.
Again, you amped here.
Stop the payload.
Let's get patched
You
up.
hit the amp, and I'm actually fine with hitting the amp, I guess, but you hit the amp and then you swap over to heals for this amp when you're purple. You can't do that.
Turret here.
Cover. Let it heal you. Let it heal you.
Up the tempo.
Okay. This amp is fine out of spawn. But this is not the first time out attack amp that we talked about. This amp is that you're trying to get back, and you probably do have 12 seconds until the fight happens. That said,
Watch out for that turret.
this is not okay. This is not okay. You and Zarya versus the world, maybe you, Zarya, and Mercy versus the world. Do you expect to 2 or 3v6 them? Because the rest of your team is back here. You should not expect to win this, and while you do have some ability to stall cart, you should not go into fights like this trying to stall them until the rest of your team shows up, when the rest of your team is a good 8+ seconds away. You don't want to do this. You are way too likely to get eliminated. Back here, when the checkpoint was on the line, sure. Here, when it's just a little cart distance to go, no, we're going to wait here, or better yet, I'm going to wait here until my team is spawned, and then I'm going to amp to help get my team back, or I'm just going to regular speed to help get my team back. That's fine. And then, once we all get to here, we'll be able to take the fight, and we'll take the fight when the cart is here. That would be better than what you're doing right now, where you're just sort of forcing this fight, we'll call it, to happen, and that's not very good. And you might say, oh, but my Zarya was already in. Your Zarya's not really in because she hasn't dropped into this fight, and they can't really get up at her. They can send some shots at her, but if she gets into trouble, she can just back up around this corner. She's got her Mercy. They have a long way to go to actually get up to your Zarya, unless your Zarya makes a mistake. And if your Zarya makes that mistake, maybe you go in and help her. But you don't go in just to stop cart here. It's not about constantly stopping the fight cart nonstop. It's about stopping the cart. It's about actually winning team fights. When you win team fights, you don't just stop the cart for 10, 15 seconds. You wipe them and you stop the cart for 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, etc. Just stalling the cart feeds them a lot of ult charge and sure takes some time off the clock, but you need to actually win a team fight to win the match, and it's going to be really hard to win that final team fight if you've just been stalling the cart the whole time when you've been feeding them ult charge the whole time. Like, you will get much better stops if you actually try to take team fights on defense.
Yeah, let's move it, people.
Go back to your team with speed.
My ultimate is charging.
Tactical visor activated.
Okay.
Yeah,
Stand
time
speed.
to heal up.
Speed. Speed. You just hit a shatter. You wanted to be on speed, and you could have pressed amp. That's what you want to do. Because that lets your team do more follow-up damage, get in there faster, be able to do more while you have the CC ult going. Plus, the opposing team has a nano Rhine running around, which you also want speed going during, because you can better kite the range-limited Rhine who has an ult pumped into him right now. There's that Tracer that we should actually be paying a little more attention to. Please don't just stand on the cart. The cart isn't going to move unless they touch it, and they might have someone touching it right now. No, they don't. They don't have someone touching it. So you're not interested in this. You're much more interested in being up here and pulling your Zarya out. Get up here with speed and help pull your Zarya out. Help your Zarya back out of this fight. Be ready to boop the Tracer off if she comes up. To boop the Reinhardt off if she comes up. You want to go up here and help your Zarya out with speed, or you could turn around and break this turret. You do not want to just exist on cart. The cart doesn't move unless they actually touch it. And yeah, this Torb is up here, but I don't care. And even if this cart moves a little, I'd rather your Zarya lives, and then the two of you can force the Torb off.
I'm under attack. Move to the beat.
Yeah.
This will heal you.
Yeah, no, he will be fine. He has a couple things to fix, but once he actually understands them, again, he's mechanically playing at a level above this, so if he can do that, yikes. If he can do that while understanding the objective-based game a little better, he's going to climb quite a bit.
Oh, let's break it. Damn.
I mean, not particularly. Not particularly what we want. I don't think this beat is going to turn this fight from a lost fight into a won fight. You don't want to do this. There's just not enough value in this. Yeah.
Enemy spotted down.
Push on.
Step right up.
Okay, so that lava hurts you. You probably just don't know this, but that lava hurts you, and it hurts you pretty quick. Again, this cart won't move. You don't have to be touching the cart. If none of the attackers are touching the cart isn't going to move. In fact, it's going to eventually slowly start rolling backwards if none of the attackers are touching it. So you do not need to go stand on or near this cart, especially when there's lava on it, if there's no one near it. Please don't, in fact, because there's much more useful places for you to be in. The defensive team is not expected to just constantly play down a man. Hey, what's a good way to do this? The defensive team is not expected to just constantly play 5v6 while they have their last one on the cart. That's not actually how you win Overwatch. What you end up doing is you go, we don't necessarily care if the attackers go put one on cart for a second, because that would be silly of them, because then, I suppose I'm using my wrong color. That would be silly of them, because while the cart will move some while they're doing the one, we would then force the 6v5 and wipe them out, and then go wipe out the one, and then we'd be happy, and they got a little cart distance, but not as much as if they want to fight, and that would be fine. So like we're not interested in that. Yes, we can go send someone back to contest if we wanted. All that is the stuff, but like defensively, offensively, the thought is not, oh, defense has to lock a person here at all times. You don't do that. You don't mind if the cart moves a little bit as long as you win the team fight. You mind if the cart starts moving the distance of a team fight, in the fights that you're winning, but a little bit of cart movement, not a big deal. Win the team fight, and remember, if you win a couple team fights in a row, the cart will have rolled back pretty far too. And you'll be getting 30, 45 seconds, a minute off the clock for each team fight that you win, which is better than just slamming into the cart repeatedly from spawn and throwing ults on it and standing on it constantly. By you being here, you're forcing your team to try to 5v6 constantly. Now, it's not actually that clean because your team isn't actually taking clean 5v6s and they're not taking clean 6v5s, but that's basically what you're doing.
Rest. Don't move. Watch your back. Push on.
Again, though, I don't want you to think that you can't stall out the cart in lost fights. In lost fights, you can totally stall out the cart, but when your team is still in the fight and has a chance to win it, I want you thinking more about being in the team fight and less about, I've got to fox guard the cart no matter what. Unless it's at a checkpoint like it was on first, where you clearly didn't think that and you went after Anna.
Let's get patched up.
No. If you wanted this, you had to go before it capped. If you wanted this team fight at all, you had to go before it capped. If you don't want this team fight, that's fine with me. But if you don't want this team fight, get out of here. It's already time to leave. You going, hey, I'm going to poke at their Sigma here is not the right answer. And it looks like your team does want this team fight because you've dropped and you've got your someone down there contesting the cart. So looks like this is the fight we want. So you or Zarya needs to go next. You can't just be shooting here. I guess that's your McCree. You need to go stop that cart if you guys are playing for this checkpoint. Clearly now you're not. You don't now go in. It's already checked. And actually how it works, see how these doors are opening right now? These doors are going to open whether you touch cart or not. As soon as they get the checkpoint, the cart isn't going to move for a couple seconds while it waits for the doors to open. So you going and touching cart now does absolutely nothing. You could have touched it before it did the checkpoint, or you could touch it after these doors were fully open and it wants to start moving again, but you don't stop the doors from opening by going to point right now. So this is bad actually.
Push on. Time to accelerate.
You need to touch during overtime, even through the doors opening, don't you? Yes. Yes, you do. If you were attacking, the attackers would have to keep someone on the cart, but him as the defender would not, because he doesn't need to touch it to win on defense when the doors are opening. He just needs the attackers to not be on it. But yes, if you're an attacker while the doors are opening, unfortunately, you do have to keep someone on there.
Let's hustle. I am loving this. Healing food.
Walls are your friends. You shouldn't get caught by earth shatters because you should be up on walls as often as you can be. And then if you don't get caught by earth shatters, sometimes you're going to be able to save your team that does get shattered with beat, which is pretty cool. Might have been able to do that this time. Yeah, that's a good point, Nordstrom. I am going to point that out. The cart, while it will eventually roll back if the attackers don't touch it for long enough, that is a completely independent of defenders being on it, not being on it thing. It'll happen after it's stopped moving forward for a while and a defender and an attacker, hasn't touched it for a few seconds. It'll decide it's time to start backing up and it'll slowly do so. It will not move back faster by having defenders on it. It will not go from being stopped to moving faster to moving backwards any faster by having a defender on it. So the all that having a defender on a cart does is stops the cart from moving forward. That's all it does. That's the only thing it does. It doesn't make overtime tick down faster. It doesn't make it so that it goes backwards faster. It doesn't make it so that it changes its mind from being in park to being in reverse any faster. Like, all it does is it stops the cart from going forward. So if it's not going forward, and it won't go forward if there isn't an attacker on it, you don't need to have a defender on it.
Nothing's gonna stop.
Graviton
Our
surge is
ultimate
ready.
Ready to activate the sound wave. Let's get patched up.
Fire at will.
Speed amp, speed amp, speed amp. Your Zarya just hit a grav. Your team is going to want to push this. Your team is going to want to push this to punish whatever is in the grav. So speed is good, but you're going to want to press the amp button as soon as it's up. Press the amp button. Press the amp button. Your team has an advantage right now. They want to press it.
It's gonna make you feel better. Healing food. Oh yeah!
Boop that. He's going to be very unhappy if you boop him and he lands right here. Like, just kind of in open, not totally in open because he'll be behind the cart when he meant to get on your McCree. In general, if you see windows like this, if Winston's disrespect you like this, just boop him. Be careful when they get close to the ground, close to the land, because you could have to deal with the bubble and you don't want the bubble to catch your boop. But here, you can boop this.
Rocket barrage.
I'm good with this heal amp because you need it and your McCree needs it.
Move to the beat.
Still fine with it. Now that you're out of line of sight of the opponents... Oh, you did stay on it. Okay, that's fine. Again, once you get into this Rhine battle here, the speed becomes better than the heal, but that's okay.
Oh, let's break it. Damn!
I don't love it. Like, I'm going to be okay with it because, hey, it gets your Rhine healthy in a situation where he's in a little bit of danger, but your team is going to have some trouble really making use of this beat in general to get aggressive. Oh, well. It's hard for me to get too critical of your beat in bronze because there just aren't going to be great opportunities because your team isn't going to aggress together.
Raising the volume.
I do not like that. I do not like that amp.
Raising the volume.
I know this looks juicy, but it's really just healing Reinhardt, and it's not worth it to just heal Reinhardt unless it's between fights, and you're not actually between fights here. You're pushing up to look for staggers. That's not really between fights, and while being on healing now is perfectly valid, you're going to want to have amp speed available to try to pull your Reinhardt out of the fight once he realizes he's in too much trouble and can't stay this deep. Speed, 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 speed.
Why are you so angry?
Walls? Walls? Okay, heal now is fine. Break the Winston bubble.
Wait, gotcha.
Okay, boop out the Winston. No? Fine. You don't need a front line. You don't need to be on the cart. Speed helps your Reinhardt more. Speed helps your Reinhardt more. You do not need to be in front of your Reinhardt.
Step.
If you are in front of your Reinhardt, I want you to be up this high on the wall. I'm serious. If you're in front of the Reinhardt, if you are in front of your own Reinhardt, I want you up here. Because the reason you get in front of your Reinhardt is so that you can manipulate the Reinhardt battle, so that you can shoot over the opponent's Reinhardt shield. I do not want you in front of the Reinhardt, like down here on the ground. I don't want that. That's your own, high note.
Damn.
60 seconds. Get in there. This will restore you.
Oh, time to accelerate.
30 seconds remaining.
Let's move it, people.
You're obsessing too hard over this cart.
Oh, let's
Beat.
break it.
Good. Again, though, we don't care if the cart moves a little bit more. We just need to win a team fight before the cart gets here. So we don't care if the cart moves a little bit. This is last fight. We would much rather go, hey, can I keep this Winston off my team? What can I do? Not, can I 1v5 holding people back here? That's not our job as Lucio. We can let Reinhardt do that if we want, but we don't want to do this. We want to go back here where we can offer our aura support to more people. Not up here where we are by ourselves trying to hold back 4 or 5 people, or with one friend trying to hold back 4 or 5 people. With Lucio, our aura, can affect 1 person, can affect 2 people, can affect 6 people. We generally want it affecting more people, not just the one.
Fire at will. 10
Speed,
seconds
speed, speed, speed. Still speed. Yeah.
It's overtime.
I don't love that amp. You see why I don't love that amp? You're now in the fight and you have 9 seconds left on your amp cooldown. You could get here pretty darn fast without that amp.
Gonna make you feel better.
Yeah, it would be nice now to be able to amp speed to help your Reinhardt back out, for example. Again, you do not need to just stand on this cart. I promise you don't. Them getting a little bit of distance does not matter. Go back here rather than put your own life in danger.
Step right up.
I'm on fire. Everyone.
Victory. This overtime.
Okay. What you need to do to improve is obvious. You simply need to better understand how the defense round works in Overwatch. So when you're playing defense in Overwatch, you have to pick your battles. And what I mean by that is with defense, you are generally looking not to just go, if we have a cart, we don't just trickle onto the cart one person at a time, one person at a time, one person at a time. We go in and go, hey, we are going to let the cart push a bit. In fact, we're going to let the cart push until it gets to a place where we think we can take a good fight. On the second point, that could be here, where we can have people here and here. We have a good high ground advantage. We might let them push the cart basically for free, just getting poked by us from here to here. And then choose here is the place that we're going to take the fight because we have this nice high ground advantage. We're going to take the fight as 6. We're going to ideally take the fight as 6 people. We're going to try to win the fight. If we win the fight, that's fantastic. Cart doesn't really move any further, or maybe it moves a little further during the fight, and then it'll start to roll back by the time they get here. And we're good, and we get to keep fighting from roughly the same strong defensive spot. If we lose the fight or start losing the fight, then we make the decision to go, okay, we're losing, but we're losing like 4v3. So our person comes back and rejoins the fight. If we're losing like 6v2, our person coming back does not rejoin the fight. They go, that's gone. It's over. I'm going to let them have it. And then we set up with 6 people again, and we take another fight here. And the reason we do that is because, again, just trickling in, eventually they are going to wipe us if we just keep trickling in one at a time. They're going to get way more ult charge than we do because they're going to eliminate our heroes. So let's say they eliminate Lucio. They eliminate Reaper. And maybe Lucio and Reaper do some damage to McCree and Reinhardt and Tracer in exchange. But their team gets to heal this damage back up, heal this damage back up, heal this damage back up, and convert that to ult charge, whereas we did not get to heal this damage back up. This is 200 HP that we did not get to heal back up. This is 250 HP that we did not get to heal back up. So they still win this fight that they were having right here, and that's super annoying. Yes, we took some time off the clock, and that definitely matters. But then they get to here, and they just get to blow us up with a bunch of ults that they've stacked while we don't have any. Now, yes, there are strategies that a team can implement that are, hey, we're repeatedly going to throw one person to the cart to slow things down, especially in super mobile dive metas. But that's not your default. Your default is, hey, I'm not going to reinforce a fight that we are clearly losing, a 6v2, a 5v2. I might reinforce a 4v3, but I'm not going to reinforce from here a 5v2, 6v2, that kind of thing. I'm going to let them win the team fight. I'm going to wait, and then I'm going to try to push back in with 6 people. It's bronze. Sometimes you're only going to get it to push back in with 5 people, 4 people, whatever. That's life. But that's the ideal that you're trying to play around. Because that way, when you get here, maybe you win this team fight at this spot a couple, 3, 4 times in a row, but they had a big time bank because they capped first fast. And then after that 4th team fight they win, then you go here, and maybe you win this team fight, maybe you don't. If you do win this team fight, hopefully you get to make a couple more stops, and that's great. And now they have a longer distance to run. If you don't win this team fight, you don't necessarily reinforce it forever. You might if you go, hey, we're going to retry and reinforce it forever because our spawn is really close and we're never really getting that far behind in the fight. So you might go, hey, we're going to seemingly reinforce it forever. But if they cap it, that sucks. It's not the end of the world. You then look to take your next fight here as 6. You don't push up and stop the cart right here. You look to take the fight right around this corner as 6 because it gives you good, strong defensive positioning. And you try to win a team fight. And then another, and then another. And if you lose it or you start going too far behind, you don't reinforce one at a time. You don't just go, hey, I'm coming back and I'm standing on cart. I'm not letting the cart move whatsoever. And same thing on King of the Hill. You'll do some interesting stalling on King of the Hill. You'll do some, hey, we're losing, but we are going to do light reinforcements. You'll especially see people intentionally in King of the Hill stall the point up until their side has 85% because that tends to be the magic number of if you have 85%, you can generally, once you flip it in a cleanly won team fight, stop the opposing team from getting a chance to really get back to point and take a team fight when you in your time it takes to go from 85 to 100 if you win one more fight. So most people will consider 85% their cutoff territory, and they will throw bodies at the point to try to get to that sometimes. But that's a specific instance. And the reason I'm covering this is this applies to defense in basically every game mode. It would also apply to defense in 2CP. You don't just stream back forever onto first point. You go, okay, it sucks, but they got it. I hope that makes sense because understanding this is really important. That said, when you're at the end of the map here, you absolutely have to stream back forever. You just have to keep streaming back forever. But you don't treat this first fight up here like it's this fight back here. You don't, when the cart is here, keep someone on the cart at all times no matter what when the fight is back here. Or you don't keep someone on this cart no matter what when the cap is back here because you just don't care if they push it a little bit. If you can take the fight on the cart, that's fine, but let your tanks handle managing the cart. You can handle managing the cart when your tanks go up to push someone. You can occasionally go back to duel a tracer that's on the cart. You can, when the cart is about to be capped, go, I'm going to anchor, I'm going to just dance around the cart forever, and that's what I'm going to do. That's a great thing for Lucio to do. That's a great skill to have, but you don't need to do that when the cart is up here. Okay, that's going to be your single biggest thing, and it is going to help you the most. After you sort of get that fixed in your head, and if you have questions on this, I really encourage you to ask, because like if this doesn't make sense, you're still going to continue to struggle. So please leave a comment if you have trouble understanding this. But after you've got your head around that and you're properly fixing it, you're not just repeatedly reinforcing fights that your team is cleanly lost, is clearly not going to be able to get back into, then I want you to work on your amps. I specifically want you to think about amping speed when you're purple. I specifically want you to think about amping speed when your team is using an ult. Those are two things that I want you to hard. And when the opposing team is using an ult, I want you to consider amping speed as well. I don't want to give you every amp speed and every amp heal usage, but I just gave you 3 there. I don't necessarily want you to amp speed when you're purple. If you get turned purple when you have amp going, I want you to switch to speed. If you have a teammate using an ult, be it visor, be it shatter, be it grab, I'm generally going to want you to hit amp speed. And if the opponent is using an ult, blizzard, high noon, etc., amp speed is probably a good idea. Those are the sort of little building blocks I'm going to give you to start to develop better amp usage, and we'll call it better crossfade usage too, but mostly better amp usage is what we're talking about there. So those are the 2 things I want you to work on. I don't want you to try to do everything at once. I want you to really spend time with this understanding how defense in Overwatch works. It's not just a constant reinforcement game. It's not just a I dance on the cart forever game. It is an art of, hey, we look to take team fights. If the cart moves forward a little bit, but we win the team fight, that's still a win. If the cart moves forward a full team fight's worth of distance, that's not a win for us, but we still might take it. Okay, if there's questions, please throw them in chat now. If you guys are enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe, as that really does help me out quite a bit, and I really do appreciate it. Or if you are looking to get coaching yourself, you can join my Discord in the description below, see what rates look like, see what sort of promos, events we have going on, all that good stuff. Okay. Okay. That's going to do it for the night, guys. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks. Temporal out.